Hey everyone, Mike Embry with Realtors here, and welcome to Open Book Realtor, the channel where we give insight and discuss tips to lead you to more success when you buy and sell, but most importantly, give you the reality of real estate. So today we're actually going to be talking about mistakes that buyers make when they're purchasing their homes. Some of these mistakes can lead to seriously costly upfront expenditures, but also over the course of their stay in the home, things can go wrong because they made some mistakes throughout the process of purchasing. So a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about today is going to really alleviate some headache, heartache, and also some financial burden from buyers that they can avoid these mistakes and talk about why they actually are mistakes, even though they might sound like a good idea to do at the time. So let's get to it. But before we get into all of that, please remember that I am a licensed realtor in the state of Ohio, so some of this may differ in your state or country. None of this should be taken as explicit instruction, but more for fun and general education and insight. Consult your realtor or attorney with contract or process questions. If you're looking to buy or sell real estate in the greater Dayton, Ohio areas, I would love to work with you. If not, don't worry though, I'm also a relocation specialist with the leading real estate companies of the world, specializing in the best connections for buyers and sellers around the world. I'm local and global, so make sure you subscribe, leave a like and a comment of where you are, with content ideas you'd like to see on the channel, and send me an email with your real estate needs and I would be happy to connect you to a top-notch agent in your area. Contact information and links are below, so with all of that out of the way, let's get into it. I have actually lumped all of these mistakes, quote unquote, into three different categories. The first category being all about preparation and education, the second category being about process and negotiations, and the third category being about updates and mechanics in a home. The first category being preparedness and education. This is actually a very crucial section in general because the better you can prepare yourself and the more education you can provide yourself or seek in general, you're actually going to avoid most of the mistakes throughout the entire course of this video. The first mistake I see a lot of buyers make is being reactive instead of preventive. Reacting to something versus preventing it in the first place tends to cause an emotional response, which means you're going to react either positively or negatively to something happening in the process. And that in turn causes you to overlook some serious details that you really need to be paying attention to that can cause harm throughout the rest of the process. So again, educating, preparing yourself, prevent problems before they happen, don't just react to them. And simply make sure that you learn the process before you jump in. So many people get caught up in seeing houses and how pretty something might look, so they want to offer on it. Well, what does that mean? There's a lot that goes into an offer and a lot that goes into a process to purchase, so you want to make sure that you're level-headed, ready to go, and completely confident. An example of some of these emotional responses versus preventive measures that we could be putting in place by educating ourselves is when we have something come up from inspections or an appraisal. It's a wrench that's kind of thrown into the process, so it is frustrating, so we react a bit strongly, which can cause some tension. And the more you're prepared for what might come your way, because you have a good realtor who's pointing some things out during your showings and things of that nature, you will be more prepared for some of those things to come your way rather than, oh my gosh, there's so much wrong. It will be more like, well, we noticed a lot of that during our showing, so we were prepared for that to be on the report. I didn't expect that one, so we're a little bit more solidly prepared of how to move forward on negotiating anything from inspection. The next mistake that we see buyers make is blindly trusting versus having consultations. I have a lot of people come to me to purchase a house, and I love that they want to automatically just trust me because they take me professionally and they take my word seriously, and I love that. But it's really important to make sure that they're in line with what their actual wants and needs are. So I always do a sit-down consultation with any of my buyers, whether they bought one house or 10 houses, because they need to know what the process is going to be like, and this is a team effort. I help guide and coach you, and I am a part of the team with you. I'm not someone that you should just take a blind advice from, because it's your decision. It's your house you're buying, not mine. We all love to trust our families and friends when they are giving us advice when purchasing a home or something to that effect, but it's important to keep in mind that it's not them buying the house, and not every house is created equal. So they have your best interest at heart, but let's keep ourselves level-headed and know that it's your decisions, not their decisions. But also, they may have purchased in a different market, so things that they're pointing out to you that could be problems, or things that they're suggesting you do during the process, may not be how it's done anymore, because market conditions fluctuate. So again, have some consultations. Don't just blindly trust what someone has told you you should do from something they did years ago. You want to feel confident that professionals that you work with or have any kind of information coming your way from are actually working on your best interest to educate you and provide you just information to make good decisions, or having the idea of trying to influence you on something. It's your purchase, you control it, so you just need information to make better decisions. You don't need somebody telling you, you really shouldn't be doing this. That's not up to them, it's up to you. Your purchase is your prerogative. An example of how we sometimes blindly trust that something was done well versus doing some diligence or having consultations about the work is having an inspector do something and then having a contractor give you extra information. Inspectors are just pointer dogs to say, hey, that's something you might want to look into farther. The contractor is going to come in and say, this is why this is a problem and this is how we fix it. Therefore, if there's something that needs to be done or repaired or replaced to continue in the process, you have all the ammunition you need. There's also a big difference between a handy person doing the work and a contractor doing the work. A handy person is not warranting any of those materials, any of that work. In general, there might be some who do, but for the most part, it's a contractor who is licensed, bonded, and insured that will be giving you a warranty for the work that they did. Whether that be 1 year or 10 years or what have you, it's still warranted. So if you're purchasing a home that has a new roof, you may want to get the invoice or the information about who put that roof on. Was it a contractor or was it the owner who just happens to be handy? The owner may have done a great job, but nothing's warranted. Whereas if it was done by a contractor, they're going to warrant the work that they did. So if there is something that goes wrong within your first couple years, that roofer will come fix something, versus that seller is definitely not going to come and repair anything for you. The third mistake is not surrounding yourself with professionals that you actually trust. You are a product of your surroundings, so it's really important that when you're purchasing a house, you make sure that all the professionals that are on your team actually have your best interest in mind and can fluctuate that from buyer to buyer. Every buyer is different, so you want to make sure that somebody is tailoring their pieces of the process to what's going to work best for you, not trying to push you down a certain avenue. Some examples of figuring that out about the professionals on your team, if you can really trust them, is paying attention to whether or not they're about quality or quantity of clients. Some people do a lot of work and a lot of transactions as a realtor or a business person in general, but what does that transaction look like? Are they a one and done? You're finished with the transaction and you move on and you never hear from them again and they never answer their phone ever again? Or are they somebody who's going to check in on you, make sure that things are going well for you? Do you have any issues that have come up that I can assist with? You know what I mean? There's a quality of service when you're purchasing versus a quantity. If you're a number to them, you're going to get what you get. If you are somebody who needs to have more of an emotional attachment, you definitely need to pay attention to somebody who's more quality oriented than quantity. Another example is someone's experience level. Just because someone's been doing it for 20, 30, 40, or 50 years even, doesn't necessarily mean they're the best choice for you. Just because someone's been doing a profession for a long time doesn't mean that they actually do it often. For example, there are some realtors who have been working for about 30 years, but they only do like 2 to 5 transactions in 1 year. That means that they're probably a part-time agent. Or you can work with somebody who's full-time and does about 10 to 20 a year or more. You know, there's different levels of experience that comes with length of time in the business. Some people benefit more by working with a newer agent because they don't have that many clients. So all their attention is going to be at your disposal. A brand new agent isn't a bad way to go about it. That might be the best for you. Or you might need to have somebody with a team of 50 people that whenever you call, you will get an answer, even if it's at 2 o'clock in the morning. That is not me. Don't call me at 2 o'clock in the morning. The last mistake that we see buyers make, for this section at least, is not getting pre-qualified for a loan before seeing homes. I cannot stress this enough, how much that pre-qualification letter is a golden ticket throughout everything you ever want to do in real estate. Many sellers now are actually starting to require a pre-qualification letter before they even approve a showing. So before you're even allowed to see houses, you should be getting pre-approved in the first place. And there are a lot of agents out there that don't even show houses to unqualified buyers because your financial strength is something you need to know, so it's a complete waste of your time to go see houses without knowing what you're able to purchase. And sellers are certainly not even entertaining offers without a pre-qualification letter. After over 100 transactions, I have never seen a single offer be placed without a pre-qualification letter. And a lot of markets nowadays are pretty fast-paced. So if you are not pre-qualified and it's an evening on a Friday, you need to get a pre-qualification letter to place an offer, or you might be waiting until Monday. So keep that in mind and make sure you get pre-qualified so you're totally ready to go. That is your golden ticket. Be Charlie in the Chocolate Factory and go enjoy every house you can, but get pre-qualified first. The next category here is going to be regarding the process and negotiations in general. The first mistake that we see buyers make when it comes to this part of things is letting HGTV influence your decisions. Please keep in mind that these shows are specifically designed to stir up your emotions, either positively or negatively or something like that. They want to just get you to watch. They're not designed to coach you on how to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. Make sure that you turn to all of your local professionals for any of that kind of stuff regarding your purchase. Don't let HGTV and the fun things that they have designed with be what influences you about purchasing a home. Absolutely enjoy it for what it is. Just don't keep in mind something like, well, they said to do this on the TV show. Guys, those TV shows are not at all how to buy a house. They're how to make a renovation or how to update something, which is just different than an actual purchase. And a lot of these shows, frankly, just take place in fiction most of the time, or not even in the United States. So if you are in the US and you're watching this, please keep in mind when you're watching HGTV, most of those shows happen in another country. But definitely leave me a comment of your favorite designs from Fixer Upper, because I love it and I love seeing what your favorites are. The next mistake we see here is when buyers think that the lower the price is, the better the deal they're getting. This was the best thing to do when back in the day you were buying a home and that was equivalent to putting an entire mortgage on a credit card because of how high the interest rates were. So the monthly payment was severely impacted by the price of the home. This was also a time where homes took 6 months to a year for the most part to sell. So you had a lot of time to negotiate and you had a lot of time to think things over and try and get something a little bit lower. However, most homes nowadays only take a month or two or even only a week or two to actually sell and go into contract with a buyer. So you might be competing against someone or something to that effect, and unless you're actually going to be living in the house for 5 to 10 years minimally, the monthly payment that you would be saving by getting a lower price may not be quite as impactful to you as getting the seller to contribute towards thousands of dollars of your out-of-pocket expenses up front. Now, this is counterintuitive, and again, it's all relative to each buyer. But if you're not staying in the house for a long amount of time, it may be more beneficial to get the seller to contribute towards your upfront costs versus giving you a lower price to save money over the course of the loan. Frankly, we're also in a different market than we were 30 to 50 years ago. So if you're getting information from someone who purchased back then about how to go about pricing and things of that nature with your contract, take that into consideration. It's not the same market at all. Rates are not at all the same, and it doesn't play as big of an impact as it used to. But of course, it's up to you. It's your purchase, not anybody else's. The next mistake for this section here is waiting to order your appraisal until after your inspections. The example about why this is a mistake comes from an intuition to save money that you may not have to spend. But unfortunately, in markets in general around the country of the United States right now, appraisers are backed up. So they're causing significant delays when the appraisal is not ordered soon. Get that ordered ASAP. It is so impactful to making sure that closing stays on time. And if you have to push closing because of an appraisal, that actually causes more expenditure for both you and the seller, and then everyone's lives throughout the entire transaction has to be completely shifted, and something might be hinging on this closing. So it's really important that you keep this locomotive going. All of this stuff is happening simultaneously. Order that appraisal as soon as you can. Alrighty, our next section here is talking about updates and mechanics. Please keep in mind that for this section, there are going to be pieces I'm talking about that I'm not the professional in, so make sure that you are consulting your professionals about any of these specific topics that you might be curious about. The first mistake that buyers make in this section here is focusing on updates over mechanics. Don't get roped up into just how pretty something has been decorated or how great everything looks, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how great the backsplash is or how great that vanity is or how amazing the paint has been done or anything to that effect if it hasn't been done well and you're going to have to undo or redo it in the near future anyway. The way I kind of like to have people think about it is that perfume and lipstick on a turd is still a turd. So you want to make sure that the home can be heated and cooled well, that the mechanics and fixtures are working properly, that the plumbing is working, all of that kind of stuff. Don't just get roped up into the fixtures. Examples of how you can figure out if something was done poorly is maybe some excessive caulking, uneven lines, some jagged edges, or even some crooked installations. I know for me personally, I would hate to look at an outlet that is crooked all the time. It would drive me crazy. But that's an example of someone who was not detail-oriented when they did an installation. Giving you a hint, it might not have been a contractor who did the work. So how much can you actually trust that you're not going to have to redo everything within a couple years of moving in? There's also a little opposite effect that can happen with this too. Don't ignore a home that has good bones and really strong, very safe, habitable, and move-in ready essentially that you can update as you go. Paint, hardware, and fixtures go a long way. So if you find something that's, just a really good, strong, solid home that you'd feel safe in, that may be a good choice for you, and you can update as you need to with paint and things like that. The next mistake that buyers make in this section here is thinking newer is better. Just because it's shiny and new doesn't mean it actually works better than something that's a little bit older. You know that phrase, they don't make it like they used to? That actually really applies. It can be both good and bad, but really keep that in mind when it comes to something you come across that might be a little bit older. If something has been maintained, it might last for quite a long time. There are average lifespans for certain pieces of mechanics and whatnot, but if somebody's been taking good care of it, it might still operate even better than something brand new out of a box. You can also live very happily in an older home with older things. You just have to learn how they operate and how you can live your life to its fullest utilizing those older mechanics. Examples of these would be things like older furnaces, older plumbing and wiring, because there are some newer things that are much, much better than how they used to be, in particular like plumbing. If you get certain types of plumbing, they don't burst if they freeze, whereas older plumbing obviously would do so. And a common misconception is that if something's built new, it's probably stronger, when in fact it's usually the opposite. Older homes were built with old wood that was really strong and sturdy. I live in a historic house, as you can see, and we have been told that the bones of our house are definitely stronger than anything built nowadays. But that's relative from house to house. And the main reason why they say that is because new construction tends to be done with young wood that's still growing and not that strong yet. Do you have any stories about older homes? I'd love to hear them. I mean, as I live in a historic home, I love to hear about the charm and everything, but I'm also well aware of some things that can go quite wrong and being a little bit of a project house sometimes. So let me know your thoughts about historic homes if you've ever lived in one. And the last mistake for this section and the video is when buyers are relying on friends and family over specialists and contractors. Don't hate me for saying it, but you are spending a lot of money on a home, so sorry not sorry for saying that you should be getting a contractor giving you proper information versus trusting a family member who just kind of knows what they're talking about and doesn't work with this industry. Family and friends, of course, mean well all the time, but their understanding of how wiring, plumbing, or mechanics work is not the same as a contractor, unless of course it is their job, then by all means. So definitely learn from friends and family and take their advice in general, but don't let their influence overshadow the information that is correct and absolute coming to you from a contractor or two giving you proper information. This also kind of applies to trusting an inspector over a contractor. So inspectors are generally just pointer dogs. They're just going to say, hey, that might be a problem. You might want to look into it farther. That's all they're saying. Or at least that's all they're supposed to say. Some states actually require a special license for inspectors to make sure that they're behaving properly, but a whole house inspector could not possibly know anything and everything to do with every house that has ever been built ever. So if they say that there is a problem, you need to investigate that farther by a specialist in that field. Because if you're going to allow the dream home that you have been pursuing to fall apart and fall away from you because of what a whole house inspector said, when a contractor could have come through and said, it's actually this problem and it's only a couple $100 fix. Or you trusted an inspector that said that something should be working fine, and you didn't have a contractor come out and pursue something farther that you're generally concerned about, that could have saved you thousands of dollars because you didn't pursue it from the right people. So those are some general mistakes that we see buyers make a lot of the time when they're purchasing a home. So to summarize, make sure that you're prepared and educated, know your process and how to negotiate in your area, and know the difference between good updates, bad updates, and good and bad mechanics. That's all I got for this one, guys. Leave me some information if you appreciated it or not, and I will look forward to making another video for you. See you next time.